Parliament. We are here for a press briefing. We, as members of Parliament, members representing the Patriotic Front, we would like to state our position as regards to the discredited Bill 7. And to speak to that, we have Honorable Brian Mundubile, who is Parliamentary Affairs Chairperson of the Tonse Alliance. Honorable Brian Mundubile.
Thank you very much, Honorable. I will start by acknowledging the presence of our chairperson for the Patriotic Front Party, Honorable Emmanuel Msonda Mpankata, members of Central Committee present, members of Parliament, members of the press. Indeed, today we have called for this press briefing just to address some topical issues that have arisen in the nation in the past few days. The two most important issues that we'd like to address at this press briefing are, one, the issue of Bill 7 and the position of members of Parliament and some members of Central Committee that we are with here. Number two is the issue of voter registration. From the onset, I wish to state that we, as members of Parliament from the Patriotic Front Party, have from the onset rejected Constitutional Amendment Bill number 7. I will repeat, from the onset, I wish to state that we rejected Constitutional Amendment Bill number 7. We rejected the process leading up to Constitutional Amendment Bill number 7, even before the Concord ruled against it. We continue to reject its contents, even the backdoor arrangement that the UPND government under President HH Hichilema are trying to use to bring Constitution Amendment Bill number 7. As a constitutional legal scholar myself, I understand the basic principles in constitution making. In new constitutionalism, in the world over, there are certain principles, immutable principles in constitution making that would include transparency, accountability, dialogue, and most importantly, broad public participation. If you look at these elements, if you look at the elements of transparency, accountability, dialogue, and indeed public participation, all of them are missing from this particular process. Therefore, there is no reasonable Zambian or leader who today would want to back Constitutional Amendment Bill number 7, or indeed the process through which it's being processed. This particular process, countrymen and women, you may be interested to know, is a process that we rejected from the beginning as members of Parliament, even before it was presented on the floor of the House. We have continued to reject this particular bill and indeed the process. We have gone as far as making an undertaking as members of Parliament that whoever supports Constitutional Amendment Bill number 7 from among members of Parliament, whether from the right or from the left, we as members of Parliament under Tonse will take it upon ourselves and descend upon those constituencies where these MPs are coming from to decampaign them. We, the members of Parliament under Tonse, will descend on those constituencies where these MPs are coming from to decampaign them. And this is not a promise we're making today. If you check your records on social media, you will discover that it's an undertaking we made in March this year, and we still stand by it. Whether the members of Parliament are from UPND or indeed the Patriotic Front Party, we want to make a call to them that let them search their conscience and for once be able to stand up for Zambia, stand up for the people of Zambia and the aspirations of our poor Zambians. If you look at the contents of Constitution Amendment Bill number 7, if for some reason or by some chance or misfortune that particular bill is processed and passed in Parliament, that will be the end of this country. We are back 30 years back. That will be the end of democracy. That will be the end of constitutionalism. So basically, Constitution Amendment Bill number 7 can be termed as an evil document. Meant to destroy our country. We want to encourage members of Parliament to join hands with the Oasis Forum in peaceful demonstrations to demonstrate against Constitution Amendment Bill number 7. We undertake to join hands with all well-meaning Zambians, including the church, and in this case, the Oasis Forum. Even as they call for peaceful demonstrations on Friday, we want to join them. We will be in the battlefront. To demonstrate to the Zambian people that we stand with them. We stand with the poor Zambians, the many suffering Zambians. We stand with them and ensure that that particular bill does not go through. So it's very important that we, the leaders, your representatives in Parliament, make this particular point very clear that from the beginning, we've been against this process, we've been against this bill, and we continue to condemn it. We also want to call upon the so-called experts, some individuals whose names we're able to recognize. These are individuals that maybe graced our lecture rooms when we're students studying constitutional law. But today, they have abdicated their national duty and support a process that they clearly know that is flawed, a process that should not at any time lead to the crafting of that particular bill. So I think that we have made ourselves very clear that members of Parliament, those present, even those that are not here, we have taken a position to go against Constitution Amendment Bill number 7, and that we will join hands with the Oasis Forum in fighting against this evil bill going forward. Before I call upon my colleague to comment, I also want to state that the information that we are receiving, the updates on voter registration, have brought about some very disturbing results. The ECZ has only managed to register slightly above 1 million out of their target of 3.5. This represents less than 30% of the target that they set for themselves. It's very clear that due to the number of challenges the process suffered from the beginning, many of our people have not been able to obtain the national registration cards and indeed the voters' cards. So voting is a very important exercise. It's a very important exercise because it affords citizens an opportunity to exercise their democratic rights. It's therefore important that government should move away from technicalities and ensure that they provide an environment where they capture at least 75% of the voters to participate in next year's elections. It therefore goes that we call upon ECZ to consider yet another extension. Our proposal is that the entire December should be left open for people to register. And ECZ must keep it up to ensure that at least 75% of the voters targeted are indeed captured. We know for sure, having gone around the country to monitor this particular process, that in some cases you found that the National Registration Office was not doing their part in most of these areas. In other cases where you found the National Registration Office doing their part, ECZ had its own problems, including non-functional equipment, among other challenges they faced. And as a result of that, we are not surprised that the registration exercise has only managed under 30%, given the circumstances. So, ECZ, we want to call upon you as representatives of the people, as people that went round to see and supervise this particular exercise. We want to call upon you to consider the extension of the voter registration period so that we give an opportunity to the many Zambians that would want to take part in next year's elections to exercise their democratic right. At this stage, I would like to call upon my colleague, Honorable Member of Parliament for Lukasha, Honorable George Sanga, to also address the nation.
Thank you, Honorable Mundubile, Chairman of the Parliamentary Affairs for Tonse Alliance and aspiring candidate for the Patriotic Front Conference for President of Patriotic Front, which is scheduled for some time in the near future. As I address the nation, I just want also to adopt what the leader of opposition in Parliament, who we know as Honorable Brian Mundubile, and the Chairman of Parliamentary Affairs has said about the Bill 7. We've condemned this bill. We've condemned the process by which this bill was initiated. We've condemned the content of this bill. We've condemned the lackluster interactions that the UPND government has purportedly undertaken in guise to try and establish that people have been consulted. Why this process is being condemned by stakeholders is very clear to see. Your members of Parliament, when the roadmap was rolled out in Parliament, we questioned how government came about that roadmap, which sought to suspend the role of speakers in the process by designing a roadmap for themselves, contrary to how the other constitution-making processes have been done in the past. But we knew that the UPND would like to foist a constitution on the Zambian people, would like to force a constitution under the throats of the Zambian people, because, like stakeholders are now saying, this Bill 7 is a lifeline for the UPND. This Bill 7 is an answer to the failure to govern that the UPND has suffered in the last 4 years. It is now very, very clear that with the mindset the Zambians have developed on what to expect in next year's election, UPND stands no chance to return to power unless they succeed in passing Bill 7. And that's why you have seen that they've been very ferocious in defending Bill 7, including threatening people who are trying to voice their disagreement with Bill 7. You've seen the social media posting by UPND cadres. They have continued to threaten people who are speaking against Bill 7. You've seen what the police have tried to suggest, that those who are going to demonstrate against Bill 7 are supposed to ensure that they fully comply with the Public Order Act. And they've actually suggested in their statement that they possibly are not going to allow the people to march against Bill 7 on the designated day. And latest, we've heard the President inviting people, instead of going to demonstrate, the President has invited people to go to State House and go and canvass about their views on Bill 7. For us, we find this statement by the President without basis. Why? Because from day one, the major stakeholders have said no to Bill 7. The Catholic bishops have said no to Bill 7. Oasis Forum has said no to Bill 7. The Law Association of Zambia has said no to Bill 7. The Constitutional Court, which is an apex court under the Constitution, that tells this nation whether what we are doing is constitutional or not, has said we cannot go ahead with the process of Bill 7 without subjecting it to what are called constitutional law-making principles. That suggests clearly that the process that is being undertaken is people-owned and is people-driven. But the UPND has been very stubborn, purely because they would like to create a new constitutional order that favors them in the next election of 2026. If people do not know, what Bill 7 seeks to do is to, among other things, introduce an inbuilt majority in the constitutional order of the nation. If you've seen the sheer number of people that the President will be allowed to nominate to Parliament, if you've seen the so-called that process of having a party that has got more numbers in power, bringing in other people, that all is designed to make sure that the UPND is going to have an inbuilt majority, so that any other election that is going to be undertaken in this country from 2026 and beyond will always be won by a party which is in power at that time. And this is why Zambians have said we cannot continue with the process of Bill 7. So just like the leader of opposition has said, for us to think that this process is actually tantamount to a coup d'etat, except that this coup d'etat is being organized by the people that we trusted with power to manage the affairs of a nation. Because how can a listening government, which has heard people say we don't want Bill 7, continue to insist and go on with the process and spend so much money on it, even when they know that people don't agree with this? So the call I would like to make on the President is that firstly, we stand with other stakeholders, such as the ZCCB, the Oasis Forum, the Royal Association of Zambia, and many other credible individuals and CSOs that have voiced their concern against Bill 7. And our ardent call to the President, we can only shudder to repeat, is that, like we've said before, even before the bill itself was put on the floor of the House, we had demanded that there be suspension of this process and we allow the country to go to elections next year under the current constitutional order, because quite frankly, this is the constitution that brought into power the UPND. We don't understand why they are afraid to have elections undertaken under the current constitutional order. Why are they insisting on amending our constitution so that we can guide ourselves in the elections using the new constitutional order? This is something that Zambians are worried, Mr. President, and I think if you are listening, President, you must listen to what your people are saying, and you must abandon the process of passing this bill, at least until we have the elections next year. And if there will still be need, even with the new government that is going to come into power, because we are very convinced ourselves that next year, if we go into elections under the current environment, show that we can have a credible election, free and fair election, there shall be a new government in office. And if there will be need at that time, imperative as it should be, that we pass a new constitution, this process can be recommenced again with the participation of all the Zambians. I want to say just one remark on voter registration. I think from the assessment that we have made as opposition members of parliament, we have established that this thing is not working either by design, by those who are in power, or just by negligence. Because it is not coincident that in certain areas, which traditionally people say are the strongholds of the opposition, that is where this system seems not to be working. If you see the statistics that are being posted after registration, you see a pattern that shows that certain sections of our country have registered more voters than others. I am one of those MPs, including Honorable Stephen Kampengo, who traveled to our constituencies to go and monitor voter registration. We established two things that were very worrisome. Firstly, there is no publicity of any nature about voter registration. At least in Lukasha constituency, I can speak about it. And secondly, the NRC registration for new voters, people who are going to enter onto a voter register, is almost non-existent in Lukasha constituency. Add to that, we had a scenario where somebody had issued NRCs using ballpen to fill in the particulars of an NRC. And when we raised issues with NRC office, they sent officers to Kasama to come and grab those defective NRCs and come with them to Lusaka with a pledge that they're going to come back at the time we start voter registration, so that those who are turning 18 and would like to go into the voters register will be doing both voter registration and NRC issuance at the same time. Unfortunately, when they came back to voter register, this process of NRC issuance is not taking place. So even as we call upon the government to extend the time for voter registration, we also make an earnest appeal that this must go alongside with credible NRC registration, so that our youths who would like to come and vote in the 2026 election, and they're already saying who they are going to vote for. They're already declaring their intent to vote for specific individuals. These should be allowed to obtain their NRCs and also register as voters at the same time, so that then we can see that there's a credible process of voter registration. So I repeat an appeal that has been made by the leader of Tonse Alliance Parliamentary Affairs. Please, ECZ, extend the voter registration process, but this time do it in clear collaboration with the National Registration Office to ensure that even when your people go to the ground, they are going to go with people who've got machines to go and issue new voter registration, NRCs rather, for the youths who are turning 18 and those who would like to come and participate in the elections of 2026. I'm grateful. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much. The two issues that we are addressing are very, very important, and we felt that there may be a few more voices to speak out, so that this government can take that into consideration. You know that we've been calling upon this government to quit the constitutional amendment process from the beginning of this year, and they've done nothing about it. I would like one of our senior members of the party, member of Central Committee, and also Chuangandu member of Parliament, to also add some comment.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson, Parliamentary Affairs, and aspiring candidate for the position of President in the Patriotic Front. I also appreciate the rest of honorable colleagues who are here. Good afternoon to you, our colleagues from the media. First of all, like my colleagues have stated earlier, our position on the current bill that has been sitting in Parliament without a proper status, sitting in Parliament as deferred, together with the process of the technical committee which has been going round, which is not anything different from what the Minister of Justice was trying to do earlier, which we condemned because we saw her traversing the country from one province to another, trying to explain to people about Bill 7, which was termed as consultative process. We condemned that because we knew it was not anchored on anything legitimate. Now, my few comments are that the government's reaction to the Oasis Forum must be condemned by everyone, because the levels of hypocrisy in us politicians is becoming worrisome. Why do I say that? While the Oasis Forum and many stakeholders have remained consistent on the issues of constitutional amendment processes, the politicians are the ones who are switching positions. UPND stood with the Oasis Forum and other same stakeholders during the time PF was trying to push Bill 7 in Bill 10, which was actually more consultative with the legal framework that protected the contents and the processes. UPND stood using the same reasons that Oasis Forum are using today. I don't know how strange it has become now that UPND are in government, that they should see what they are trying to do as being legitimate in terms of constitutional amendment. They were very clear in the past that any constitutional amendment should not leave the part 3 of the Constitution, which requires referendum. And we thought that's what they were going to embark on. Immediately they came into government, as they promised, to start running at the end of their term will not help them. And this dialogue that they are calling for should have been what they started with, if they were sincere. But like my colleagues say, we want them to learn from us, who have a success story, and I sit here as a member of Parliament who was part of the Parliament in 2016, when we enacted the current 2016 Constitution. We went into serious dialogue with the then movement for multi-party democracy in opposition. And I'm calling 2 leaders, Honorable Felix Mutachi, with due respect, and Honorable Ruben Mutoro P, Minister of Agriculture. These 2 were leaders as members of Parliament between 2011 to 2016. And they were very instrumental in the discussions we had between us in ruling as a ruling party and them as opposition. Mind you, that time we couldn't meet the threshold of constitutional amendment. These 2 leaders and the other senior leaders like Madam Namgara were very instrumental in the discussions as we were instructed by the people at the tail end of the processes of enacting 2016 Constitution. These 2 leaders must help their government they are part of now, because they know what it takes to have genuine dialogue. So, if the UPND have now forgotten about people's challenges in terms of priorities, we have to remind them that right now as we speak, most of the majority farmers who supplied maize to FRA are still not paid. This is December. We are going to December. So, if they are not caring about the people and they want to care about themselves, because those amendments are just political, it's just about consolidating authority,
self-preservation,
and self-preservation for politicians. There's nothing much for the people. People now would want the president to address the power shortages, the protracted long hours of road shedding.
Yeah.
That's what people are concerned about. Now, believe you me, that if those amendments were to succeed, you are talking about an increment of numbers of parliament, which won't be a cheap undertaking. It will be at a cost. So if government can find money for people to go around, masquerade to be doing consultations, why wouldn't they find money for the people who have supplied maize on credit to FRA? They are walking long distances to go to the banks, only to go back to their villages without money. What kind of government is that? You know how difficult it has become today. There's no power and there's no fuel. For those that depend on fuel on generator sets, they have to look around for fuel, which is also expensive. So what priorities has this government got? The distribution of inputs for poor farmers who benefit on Farmer Input Support Program, FISIP, is chaotic. Farmers will end up again sharing fertilizer in medals, which has already started from what I'm told, because members are just coming from the constituencies. So these are the priority areas the government should be concerned about. So if people were lastly allowed to demonstrate that time, you saw UPND, cadres, youths and whatnot demonstrating against Bill 10. Why shouldn't people express themselves now? Why shouldn't people express themselves now? In any case, these people are saying it will be peaceful. They are not going to demonstrate in a violent way. It's provided for in the Constitution. And all the police are supposed to do is to engage the organizers of these processions to understand how they are going to be marshaled. And they've requested to go to the highest office. And if the president has agreed to dialogue with them, why don't we get the procession and then open the State House, then go and dialogue? Because why people are calling for that is the kind of arrogance that they've seen from their government. The court rules on the Bill 7. You just change the tactic and pick a few elements of the judgment from the Constitutional Court and pick a semblance of what they are calling technical committee to go around. Why don't you follow that Constitutional Court ruling to the letter? Because it's about confidence building. The speed, the supersonic speed at which government is trying to move in trying to sanitize the Bill 7, the toxic Bill 7, is worrisome and it won't be allowed by citizens. So for us, speaking on behalf of our members, like I've said, we have been consistent on these issues. We remain committed to the instructions of the people, because the Constitution is one supreme document on which Zambians give instructions to the legislators. It's not like any other bill. So we have been guided by the ZCCBC, and His Grace the Archbishop of Kasama has been speaking on these matters, and we have been acknowledging. And on our part, we have assured them that we shall go by the guidance, because they represent the majority number of citizens. And therefore, the Oasis Forum score is something that we are going to reflect on, and we are looking forward to engaging them on what role we can play. But my leader for the Tonse Alliance parliamentary committee has already spoken to that aspect. Only to assure Zambians that there is no amount of cohesion at this juncture, we will sway the majority members of parliament belonging to Patriotic Front and the well-meaning independent members of parliament to change their position insofar as the Bill 7 and this technical committee, because we have picked it that they want to hush even before we adjourn, get the report from the technical committee and work. I don't know whether they are going to work on a quick draft bill which should be brought to parliament before we adjourn. But again, it's too late, and the government should listen to the people. Government is failing the people by not being consistent themselves. So Zambians must be assured that we, their representatives, are much more concerned about the issues that are affecting them on the daily basis. Even our mothers and Mangonomics has not come to anything. The cost of living for you citizens has become very high. Earning a living now is just talk. If I look at those of you sitting in front of me, I know how much it is difficult for you to even do your work. So that's what I thought I could add on in to what my colleagues have said, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Nampiongo, for speaking to the views of Bill 7, as well as the hardships that farmers are facing. We'll now call upon Honorable Tsanga to give concluding remarks.
Yes, thank you. As I hand over to Comrade Tsanga, there are stories of some MPs having accessed some money in support of Bill 7. I want to make a call. As a chairperson for the Tonse Alliance, if there is any MP who has collected any money in support of Bill 7, take back that money to the UPND. If there is any MP, it does not matter whether it's 3 million, 200,000, 100,000. If you are a member of parliament and you have collected any money from the UPND so that you support Bill 7, please take back that money. That money belongs to the poor people. The farmers today are not paid. Where is your conscience? You receive 3 million as an individual through corruption from the UPND government, from President HH and UPND government. They should pay you 3 million kwacha at the expense of farmers. Can you please take back that money? You come to parliament in your representative capacity, not to come and enrich yourselves, aggrandize at the expense of those that voted for you. So it's a call on all honorable members of parliament who are out there busy banking money, corrupt money from the UPND in support of Bill 7. That is evil. Old women and men are spending nights at FRA depots. Women are sleeping at FRA waiting to be paid. Small amounts of money. Some are owed 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. And today, as a member of parliament who has got allowances, he's got a salary, you must get money that belongs to the Zambian people. Evil money that is given to you in support of an evil bill. That's very shameful. You do not deserve to be a people's representative. You do not deserve to be a member of parliament. It's very, very saddening indeed to learn that some people, some individuals who are members of parliament can go out there at the expense of our poor people and begin to get colossal sums of money corruptly. I just thought I should state that. It's very, very upsetting indeed. Yes, I'm told they even have contracts. This is a corrupt government. No wonder they've destabilized the SEC, because the UPND government under President HH and UPND does not want stability at the Anti-Corruption Commission. I'm told members of parliament are being coerced with contracts so that they support Bill 7. Indeed, it's a shame. How are you going to fight corruption when corruption is right in State House? Giving away contracts just to be able to coerce members of parliament? Where is your conscience, President HH and UPND? Where is your conscience? You promised to fight corruption. Today, all we hear is that members of parliament are being coerced. Very, very sad indeed.
When your leader of parliament in Tonse speaks, sometimes it becomes very difficult for you to come and say something else.
No,
but I think
annoying.
the message is very, very clear. Corruption only thrives in society when those who are so whipped to be corrupt find weak souls who can become their targets. But just to echo what the leader of opposition has said, quite frankly, if there are any people that have been corrupted or to whom corruption has been suggested, we make a call for them to say so. They were sent to parliament to represent those people who voted for them. They have got a social contract with those people. Okay, before I make a closing remark on Bill 7, let me just make a point that came when I was making a presentation on NRCs and voter registration. I think one journalist who's following this live has given me an indication that in fact they're now receiving complaints that some of the voters cards rather that are being issued now do not even have full details. Either the person's face is missing or names are not properly recorded, and when you go and complain, they're not being given very good reception by those who are registering for votes. I would like to call upon ECZ to pay attention to this particular concern from a journalist. I think when a journalist raises it, it means it has repeated itself so many times. There are details that are missing on some voters' cards that have been issued recently, and also some of them don't have the faces on them. This is the responsibility of the ECZ, and it also just goes to justify the call we have made, that we must extend this process, possibly make it ongoing until the end of December or even until the end of January, to make sure we capture as many people as possible ahead of this decisive election of 2026. I was also being asked so many questions by the journalists since morning when we got word of what Dr. Shua said on KBN yesterday, that there are some MPs who have been bribed or to whom it is being planned to bribe by paying them 3 million kwacha. I wasn't able to answer to those who called earlier in the morning. I thought I should first find out from my leadership and also from my colleagues on what answer to provide to this. But I've now been given the permission to answer, and I'm going to respond to those who had raised that issue in the morning. The first thing we would like to say is, as a Patriotic Front leadership, we respect Dr. Sishua. We respect him as a scholar. We also respect him as an individual who's well-intentioned on every matter that he speaks about concerning the governance of this nation. I think he does whatever he does from a standpoint of love to the nation. And this is why when such a person makes a statement that creates allegations against you, you begin to get concerned. And this is why partly you've seen these members come here. I think we've come to voice our position very clearly, that we belong to that class of members of parliament who cannot sell for anything. We have some of those principled members of parliament who understand our constitutional mandate. We are members of parliament who took an oath to protect this constitution, and we've demonstrated this from day one in parliament. The first time we were suspended in this parliament is when we stood up to defend the constitution. When we noticed that government was making mistakes that were constitutional and that were going to cost not only the budget but the whole nation, we were suspended. Several other times when we've been suspended as a group that you're seeing in front here, it has always happened against the backdrop of our quest to try and protect the Constitution. We continue with that same responsibility of making sure that we protect the Constitution, and this is why we have stood very firmly against Bill 7. I can say with conviction that those members of parliament who are under the control of the real leadership of a Patriotic Front in the House and at party level, and not some of those that Dr. Shua would have mentioned, if he was going to mention a name, who have accepted a bribe or who are planning to accept a bribe from UPND, to support Bill 7. And because Dr. Shua is our colleague, I think I take it on behalf of all the members of parliament that we can engage him. We intend to continue engaging him to find out if he can be kind enough to disclose even those names of people that have accepted bribes to support Bill 7. So to begin the work that the leader of Council Alliance in Parliament has said, we'll go to the constituencies and go and speak to their people and say, the person you gave us to go and work with in Parliament has betrayed you, has sold you for 30 pieces of silver, just like that person in the Bible did to the Son of God. But we want to make it very categorical that there are members of Parliament who are upright. In fact, I can even say we are even speaking to our colleagues, the independents, and those who belong to the UPND, who we know believe in the duties that they have under the Constitution, and who we know that their duty is larger beyond the political party, in a bid to convince them that if indeed there's going to come a time when we're going to vote on Bill 7, we will not vote in favor of this bill. We, and I was told by my colleagues, are even prepared if need arises to sign social contracts of ensuring that we let the Zambians know that we do not support this nefarious bill that is intended to change our constitutional order from the way we've known it since we got independent. We cannot sell for anything, not even 3 million kwacha can buy you anything. Like leaders here have said, many people are expecting to be paid. We cannot begin to compromise our responsibility under the Constitution. So I speak in defense of these members, and we're prepared to engage even further with all the stakeholders. Our next stop will be the Oasis Forum 1 to renew this partnership with them, to make sure that the nation knows that we stand with them on the fight against Bill 7. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, our senior members of parliament, for stating our position as opposition patriotic front members of parliament on the credited bill, disrespected Bill 7 and other issues affecting the nation. It's now time for questions, points of clarification, comments from our colleagues, the media. Please state your name and the media house where you're coming from. Time for questions, and we would like to split our discussion to what has been spoken about. Questions? No. Clarifications? Comments? I guess everything is clear.
We were very clear.
Thank you so much, colleagues, for coming, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.